B1 family, welcome to Black Logic. So, first and foremost, let's start this. B1 family, welcome to Black Logic. A little later in the broadcast, we're going to have people to call in, and I'll put that invite link in case people want to jump the gun and get inside the queue. So I'll put the invite link inside the chat right now. Give me 1 second here. But as we get into the conversation, if you are a supporter or you're non-supporter of Kamala Harris and you want to have a discussion about it, you have some questions and or I have questions for you guys, for people who may be calling in support of Kamala Harris. And tomorrow, on Wednesday, we're going to cover Donald Trump. Okay, we're going to cover Donald Trump. When you think about Kamala Harris, she loves to talk about her policies or the lack thereof, or she got plans. That's what she kind of states. But here's the thing, where's the substance? Where's the details? Every time she talks about affordable housing, education, or economic relief, there's no concrete explanation about how these policies will actually be funded. And here's the big one, how she's going to push these things through a divided Congress. Because let's not forget, in Washington, nothing gets passed without navigating the so-called political landscape. It's one thing to process a $1 trillion policy, another thing entirely to get the votes to pass it. How are we supposed to believe that Kamala, who's been waffling over major issues for years, is going to stand firm enough to fight through all this resistance? The same woman who can't even give us a straight answer on fracking, right? Speaking of fracking, let's talk about how she just loves to play both sides of the fence depending on who's in the room. In 2019, she was all in on banning fracking. I'm a ban fracking. I'm a ban fracking. It's dangerous to the environment. Green New Deal, etc. Talk about a big game. Talk about how dangerous it is for the environment. And if you fast forward to 2020, when the heats get turned up and suddenly she's backpedaling, right? She's backpedaling like she's an NBA guard somewhere. I never said I'll ban Franklin completely, she says, leaving everybody scratching their head as though anytime she speaks more than 20 minutes. So if she can't even hold a strong position on something as black and white as fracking, where there's clear environmental harm, how is she going to fight for us? How is she going to fight for foundational Black Americans? And we already know, I'm just throwing that in there, but how can you trust someone who sways with their political wins with no backbone or real commitment to meaningful change? How can you do that? I don't know how you can do that, family. So let's see what she had to say. Give me 1 second here. Lately, I've been having all right. Let's try that one more time. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what StreamYard is doing. Let's see if we can get this queued up. All right, here we go.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020 that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking. One, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for president of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about
Out of all the CNN interviewers and anchors, Dana Bash, I believe, did a phenomenal job, which is saying a lot coming from CNN because they're usually soft on Democrats. But I believe Dana Bash, she wanted details. She asked a question. She tripled down on questions to see what Kamala was talking about. And as you were stating here, you're going to see, she said, well, the past decade, you was in office for 3.5 years with Joe Biden. And this is when Kamala gets discombobulated and confused every single time. Listen in, family. See if I can get this going.
about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped, I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Yeah, I have no idea what she was talking about. Most people don't know what the hell Kamala Harris is talking about. Okay. And I put a invite link inside the chat, family. I'll throw it up again in case anyone wants to come up and defend Kamala Harris. But we're going to keep trekking on here. There's a lot to cover because Kamala Harris, we all know that famous clip about reparations that she did, right? And just for you guys who are maybe new to the clip, it's been exploding all over the internet for the past 4 years, especially when she was running for a president prior to her joining with Joe Biden. You guys remember this clip, right?
Do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because
So that is what Kamala Harris stated roughly 4 years ago, family. And we haven't forgotten what she stated. And as of late, she stated that she would support reparations. Now, and of course, I think she threw in one of her town hall rallies that it would become with a study. We need to focus on passing HR 40. We know that there's nothing tangible in HR 40. It's on a study. The same thing that Gavin Newsom did with California. You know, he mollywopped those reparations and those people on the reparations task force. He told the legislators not to pass the reparations bill. I'm paraphrasing here, family. Allegedly, this is what he stated, and this is what they said. They told him not to pass the reparations bill, even though he's the one who established and helped establish the reparation task force. So we have to look at these politicians. I call them lieticians because that's all what they do. But if we really get into the heart of the matter, reparations, Kamala Harris, who loves to lean on her so-called black identity when it's convenient, can't seem to give a straight answer on reparations. 1 minute, she'll support a study. In the next, she's telling us that reparations should benefit everybody. Well, if you give what is owed, the debt that is owed to foundational black Americans, that reparations would support everybody. It would help the economy. So reparations aren't for everyone, though. It's for those who were persecuted. It's for the descendants of those who were enslaved here in America. It's for foundational black Americans who are the descendants of slaves. But here's the kicker, family. Whenever reparations come up, Kamala Harris' response is always vague. It's very short. She skirts around it like it's a third rail because she doesn't want to upset white moderators or her corporate donors. Let's not forget her exact words. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that only is going to benefit black people. No. Well, who exactly are you benefiting, Kamala? It's always wait for the study, wait for the commission. But let's be real. There are no solid steps being taken towards delivering what's owed to foundational black Americans. Reparations are long overdue. And I don't care about any Negro stating that, oh, you just want something for free, or any white supremacy adjacents or those who operate in white supremacy ideology stating that you just need to get off your butt and do something. A debt is owed. And Kamala, when it comes to this issue, she's been playing games for far too long. If she can't stand firm on reparations, how can we trust her to fight for any policies? Listen, any policies that benefit us in any way? How can we do that? We have an open border problem. And who's really paying the price? Who's really paying the price, family? I see we got Mikey Fleming in the room. Extreme X, peace to you as well. Okay, I threw an invite link, family, if you guys have any questions, but have some questions for those who want to call in and discuss as well. Because this is not a hot topic. This is the topic for right now. These are what these lieticians are doing. And that's what we have to understand. When it comes to her open door policies, which has basically wreaked havoc on black communities around the U.S., more than anyone wants to admit, Kamala pushes for open borders. And she has, her and Joe Biden, letting immigrants flood into the country without a concrete plan on how to manage resources, let alone secure the border, which has directly impacted FBAs the most. She talks about it's a humanitarian crisis, but the real crisis is happening in our communities, and let alone America. Think about the millions of Americans who are living on the street. Now, don't get me wrong, family. I know some of you may say, well, some of them want to live on the street, but majority of people don't want to be unsheltered. Majority of the people don't want to be homeless. Majority of people don't want to be strung out on alcohol and drugs. They don't. It really makes me think, family, how we have allowed America to fall this much, where we are just being fear mongered into one option. We're just being fear mongered into one choice because we don't like Donald Trump. And I'm not stating vote for Donald Trump. I'm not stating that, family. But we feel as though we always have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Like there's not a third choice. Because we can't come to the conclusion that we have the right to vote or not to vote. Because think about it. When Donald Trump was in office, did you hurt more or were you more progressive? Or did your situation stay the same? So really, did it matter? When Obama was in office, did your situation get better? Did it get worse? Or did it stay the same? I guess some people are stating that, well, Donald Trump is an embarrassment to society. He's an embarrassment on the international stage as president. Then if you ask a lot of business owners, under what administration did you make the most money? Obama, Trump, or Biden? Consistently, I've heard people say Biden. And I know it's not all about the money, but for some reason we live in a capitalistic society where people are always trying to make more money so they can buy more things or do more things, whether they be negative or positive. I'm just sitting here thinking, family, because illegal immigration puts direct pressure on Black Americans by increasing competition for low wages. And some people will say, oh, Black Americans don't want to compete. No, Americans, let alone Black Americans, do not want to compete with people who are illegally in the country and will take any job for any wage. This is why we have local, state, and federal laws where we look at the cost of living in that particular area and say, you know what? No one can survive making $5 an hour. We have to at least make it $8 an hour. We have to at least make it $12 an hour. Because studies have shown that illegal immigrants are often hired at lower wages, undermining employment opportunities for Black workers who have already been shut out of the economy due to systematic racism. We see this in industry like construction, especially construction, Lord, landscaping, service sectors, where Black men in particular have historically been employed. Historically, these are the jobs that we've had. But yeah, thanks to open door policies by Kamala girl, these jobs are being filled by illegal workers who will accept lower wages. She's the border czar, right? She is responsible of securing the border. We can't keep trying to avoid this topic. Like we don't see 20-something million people who are illegally in the country. And we're not just talking about Hispanics, family. We're talking about Hispanics, Asians, Caribbeans, Africans. We're talking about everybody. And don't get me started on how resources like housing assistance, welfare, and even healthcare are being stretched thin to accommodate those surge of illegal immigrants who, mind you, are getting more support than foundational Black Americans who have been here suffering for centuries. We're talking about $450,000 payouts being proposed for families that's separated at the border. And now think about that. Where's the same energy for us who built the country? But we're still waiting for justice and equality. That's what we're waiting for, is it not? Because this particular administration, Kamala Harris, has prioritized the struggle of illegal immigrants over the needs of homeless, over the needs of those who need the support of these systems more so than those who are illegally in the country. When we talk about the debt that is paid, We were told it's complicated. Reparations, what are you guys going to do with the money? Are you guys going to buy rims and Jordans? Are you going to lift up your vehicles? Are you going to go buy Chanel, Fendi, Balenciaga? Are you going to just blow your money? Doesn't matter. When President Obama gave Jewish Holocaust survivors millions of dollars in earmark money, no one asked them what they was going to do with the money. No one asked them. Oh, well, we just know that the Jewish Holocaust survivors are just going to live their lives in peace and with dignity, and they're going to build businesses, so we don't have to ask them. Well, that's exactly what Foundational Black Americans would do. We're going to build business. Some people are going to trick it off. Some people are going to pay their bills. Some people are going to pay off their student debt. There's a lot that can be done with the money that is owed to us. But when it came to reparations, they said it's complicated and it needs a study, right? But when it comes to cutting the check for illegal immigrants, they seem to have it all figured out. We got all types of funds. We got all types of money that we can give illegal immigrants. And we are totally ignoring the laws like the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 that basically shifted the landscape that disproportionately harmed Black workers by allowing millions of immigrants into the country. And now under Kamala's so-called VP leadership, we see policies that offer protections and assistance to those who are not even citizens, while we continue to struggle. Meanwhile, her keeps preaching about unity, diversity, inclusivity, but who's actually benefiting? So when I look at Kamala Harris in a nutshell, family, she is no friend to Foundational Black Americans. And matter of fact, it seems as though she's not a friend to America, especially the American citizens. She's proven time and time again that she will say whatever it takes to appeal to her base. But when it comes to delivering concrete, actionable policies for us, she falls short every time. From her flip-flop on fracking, her empty promises on reparations, to her open border policies that truly hurt Black communities. She's not here fighting for us. See, and there's going to be a lot of women, they're going to vote for Kamala Harris because of Roe versus Wade. They want, on a federal level, for them to go out and have the freedom of the choice of their bodies. We know where we're getting at, family. Pro-choice, so to speak. But when it comes to us, we need someone who is committed to tangibles, specific policies that uplift our people, not someone who panders for votes and then abandons ship when it's time to make real change. We deserve better. We've always deserved better. The country deserves better. So if you're still on the fence about Kamala Harris, take a look at her record, or take the look at the lack of her record, if there even is a record. And ask yourself, is she fighting for Foundational Black America? Is she fighting for the American people? That's the question. That's the question, family. I'm going to throw this invite link back up in case anyone has anything they want to discuss. Check the chat. If you have anything you want to discuss, you want to join in on the broadcast. And if you do join in on the broadcast, I do have a question for you. And this is not in the spirit of debate. If it turns into a debate, then so be it. But this is not in the spirit of debate. But I do have a couple of questions. And matter of fact, you can prepare for the question. So the question is, or one of the questions rather, how can Kamala Harris claim to have effective policies? Okay, how can she claim to have effective policies when she fails to provide specifics on how they will be funded or passed through Congress? How can she claim to have effective policies if she never provides details on how they will be funded or passed through Congress? And I know she's going to impose a higher tax percentage on the people who are making what, over $450,000. And then the second part of the question kicks in. How are you going to pass that through Congress? You know, every Democrat has tried to do this and it's never worked. It's really never worked. And again, I'm apolitical. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a independent, and I'm not a Democrat. But these are the questions that we need to ask, because at any given moment when they start to provide tangibles, I'll be there to vote. You always should stay registered to vote in case you make the decision to vote. I know in Texas, I think today was the last day to register to vote. So if you're in the Texas area, but I don't see anyone who wants to join. I don't see anybody who wants to join, ask a question. But shout out to everybody who's joining me this evening. Alpha Light, FBA Build America, Volvo, I see you in the room, Stream X, Kimberly Hill, Miss Melody. I'll read some of your comments here. Michael Fleming says, I'm voting for Trump. Alpha Light states, if Trump loses, it's game over for America. Okay, that's a stretch. Kamala, so this is from FBA Built. Kamala so horrible that I refuse to ever vote Democrat ever again. Wow. Okay. Extreme X, peace to you as well. Volvo states, when she says, listen, the lies begin. Indeed it does. Or let's be clear. Kimberly Hill sounded like she was going to make America great again. Hey, Log, did you hear Martin Luther King III wants a black and brown coalition? Yeah, I heard that trash. He is not his father. Okay, he is not his father. So we got to ignore that guy. Mr. Melody says, I'm a volunteer at my local church and the food bank. Over the last 3 years, the migrants have depleted the food from the locals. Not a surprise, brother. Not a surprise. And Kamala Harris is doing a lot of fear mongering with the LGBT. They're not going back. And you know, I wanted to show you guys something. That I came upon just to lighten up the mood a little bit. Is that okay? Can I lighten up the mood a little bit? I don't want this to be too serious. I mean, it's only the fate of America at hand. I'm not fear mongering. I threw a joke in. But yeah, let me show you this very quickly. Let me toss this up for you guys, see what you think. Listen to.
I'm Kamala Harris, and today I'll be showing you my old John.
Wow.
Yeah, Mickey D's. We all love a Whopper.
Did you work at this location?
No, but it still signifies 1 in 3 Americans will work at McDonald's at least once in their life. It is America.
Okay.
Let's go get a Whopper or something.
Yeah.
What do you like? Extra onion?
I like some
Oh my
fries.
God, it smells like home. No, they didn't have these when I worked here. I don't know how this works. I don't like that at all. And under my rule, there'd be no more.
Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters and my soror. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters. Hello to all my
That's a good question. So a couple of things. Community about self-awareness. But you know, as far as we can be concerned as a nation, well, when you ask a question like that, you need to consider all the modalities. The modalities, whether they're neutral or they're coveted in a bunch of lies. That's concerning.
That is, that is quite concerning. So when when you bring up tropes of lies, you're bringing up a lot more than that. You're bringing in a conversation that nobody really wants to have. I'll be running for president of the United States. And we have states. And they're united.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Kamala Harris. And one more question. What do you think about the United States of America?
And because think about it. States should be united. And all the states now, well, they have a president to preside over them. Oh, that's good.
Thank you, Kamala. Now, moving on to our current president, Joe Biden. What do you want to say to America before you leave office?
My fellow Armenians of United Grapes of Australia, it's been an honor and a dignity to serve pizza, serve as the
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. There are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles, right? And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams, so I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, the 3 circles.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. I can imagine what can be.
Family, and of course, when it comes to Donald Trump, it's not like it gets better, right? But that term she kept using, I want you guys to be familiar with this term. She uses this quote a lot. I want you guys to hear it one time. We're not going to go through the entire video again, but I want you to listen.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. There are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Remember Venn diagrams?
Now, have any of you guys ever thought about what that truly meant? Like, what is that quote she's using, and where did it come from, and what does it mean? Well, I believe Eric Weinstein did a great breakdown. Let me see if I can get this popped up for you guys. I would love for you guys to hear this breakdown of what he's stating here.
Can you please try and explain to me what you interpret by what can be unburdened by what has been? What does that mean?
I don't know if I should say. There's a line in Marx where sometimes you hear certain phrases like a world to win. AOC uses the phrase, we have a world to win, which comes from the end.
I've heard AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, use that term. And believe it or not, family, that's a Marxist term. And just to kind of give you a very quick synopsis. Being a Marxist is being anti-capitalist, right? What America has been built on, and the reason why America is the most prosperous country in the world, and let alone the most powerful country in the world. And if you guys are familiar with Karl Marx, you guys can go reference this for yourself. But it says the proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. And that's sort of a quote that Marxists use sometimes. And that is what Eric Weinstein was referring to.
Of the Communist Manifesto, originally written in German. It was the name. I used to hang out in the Revolutionary Bookstore in Cambridge, Massachusetts with the communists because they print everything in every language. So if you're trying to learn multiple languages, they'll print the same text in all of these languages and you can compare. It basically says you have to wipe out what has been to arrive in the new.
And where's it from? What can be unburdened by what has been?
It's not a direct translation, but it occurs in Karl Marx. Now, I wasn't expecting this. I could find you the exact reference. If you think about what Mao had to do to wipe out Chinese history, what Pol Pot had to do, you're trying to wipe out memory because the memory has all of this burden. Why is it important to go after doctors and lawyers and teachers and professors? Because in some sense, they are going to resist the new order that you're about to impose. You're looking for a blank slate.
So like get tethered to the past.
Okay, I'm going to tell a story I don't know that I've ever told anyone. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Can't promise it's original to you. But I was in Hoi An in Vietnam. Now I'm going to lose this one.
And I want you guys to pay close attention to Eric Weinstein's story, because he sometimes can be long-winded, and we won't video entirety. Okay, we won't listen to this video in its entirety, but he gives a story to kind of give a backdrop of how he's building on where this quote essentially came from and kind of its origination and how it came to be, so to speak. And I think it's important. Fair use, all video clips that was used in this video for commentary and educational purposes. There we go.
Hoi An is one of the only beautiful places that I found, like Hue and Hoi An. A lot of things were really ripped up in that war. And there is an unbelievable and difficult instrument, which the Vietnamese language is very hard, so I'm going to say it wrong, it would be written as Dan Bao. It's one string and a giant lever, and you pluck the harmonics, and it's supposed to be an intimate instrument, I think sometimes played by the blind, where only the person who's intended is the recipient of the music. Okay. I see this in a window in Hoi An, and I become transfixed by it. And a woman says, I see you looking at this in English. Would you like to come in? And I said, I don't want to impose. She says, no, it's not mine. So she invites me in. And there's this guy who appears to be brain dead. He's like deformed. I'm not going to get through this. And he's speaking very haltingly, and I don't know who he is. And something about music, something about journalism, something about a professional. I can't really make out what's happening. I'm asking about the instrument. And this woman brings him a guitar. And this deformed man starts playing some transcript, like Chopin or some piano concerto on the guitar at some incredible level. And I can't even imagine that his body can do it. And so I have no idea where I am or what's happening. And then he motions for like a book. And she brings a book. And it has all of these articles about this man tortured for his principled stand against communism. This man has been destroyed mind, body, to the point where it's just painful to watch him. And I realized that basically do you know what a nail house is? If you Google nail house under Google Images, tell me what you see.
It's a tall building, an individual standalone structure in the middle of a road.
There are these people who will not give up their homes when a shopping mall goes in or a road is put. And for some reason, they'll build a highway to screw over the person who stands up and says, I will not move. And the idea is that that road is the future, unburdened by what has been, and then there's some holdout who won't go along with the program.
If Kamala Harris is as unsophisticated as we think she is, do we really believe that she is quoting from the dark depths of...
Why do you believe she is as unsophisticated as you have just claimed? What did her father do?
I don't know.
Look it up. And by the way, I am assuming that I will end up on the Open Skies watch list as a result of this podcast.
That is crazy. The quad S on her boarding pass. Donald J. Harris, the father of Kamala Harris, Jamaican-American economist, professor emeritus at Stanford University, originally from St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica.
What kind of economics?
Known for applying post-Keynesian ideas to development economics. What's post-Keynesian?
I don't know.
Post-Keynesian economics is a school of economic thought with its origins in the general theory of John Maynard Keynes' subsequent development influenced to a large degree by a name I can't pronounce.
I think that there was a lot of Marxist thought. And I, as a man of...
So, family, that was the point, that basically they're trying to build, they're building a premise against Kamala Harris, basically stating that she's indeed, because of her father, and again, she didn't have a lot of the information or the evidence that's out there. She didn't have a lot of contact with her father, but nonetheless, that statement it derives from a Marxist ideology, that is anti-capitalism, right? That basically building of a welfare state. And that's why you can kind of link and when I say open border policies, you know, they're not worded as open border policies, but nonetheless, we see people who are illegally in the country that can get resources, benefits, and cash payments, because essentially America, we would like to believe, is majority capitalist. But if you look at the very fabric of America, we've been operating probably anywhere from a 40 to 55% socialist country. A lot of the programs that we have in place are socialists. If you look at DACA, you look at TAF, you look at CHIP, there are some elements of SSI, but again, they take that money out of your paycheck and then you get the money back. So there's a certain elements of SSI that are dealing with the social economy. But you look at a lot of welfare programs that we have in America, this comes out of an anti-capitalistic Karl Marx ideology. And that is what he's basically stating, okay? Because a lot of the terms that she's using, these phrases, these quotes, that they continue to go over and over again, as he stated before, when it came to AOC making the comment, a world to win, is literally right out the Karl Marx, manuscripts, if you ever read some of his work. So this quote would have been, I don't know, I even say it correctly. This is essentially the government that we're living in, and this is why these things are taking place. So again, before I end the broadcast here, I will put a link inside of the chat if anyone has any questions. I also have a question for anyone who would like to join. So I'll give that a couple of seconds before I end here, family. But these are the things I wanted to share with you with Kamala Harris. I'm not going to get into her identity. I already covered that. I cover so much in the political landscape as we're coming close to the election. And on Wednesday, we're going to cover Donald Trump. Okay, we're going to cover Donald Trump in the same fashion. In the same fashion. Okay. But nonetheless, you guys have a great and wonderful evening. I'll see you guys on the next one. Be one.